everybody, this is JP. You're watching the JP show. Thanks for checking out the previous one. It was very fun to record. Me and Dad had a great time, and hope you enjoyed this one, and please like and subscribe. Take it away, Dad.
All right, thanks, JP. As you see already, we have a special guest on this episode. We had a lot of people that checked out the last episode, so thanks again, like JP said, for checking that out. But our cousin is here, my big Big Fred. What's up? How you doing here today?
Man, I'm doing all right.
Yeah, good. Look at that deep bass voice coming on the podcast and everything. I got the highest pitch
Sound like
voice out of
Kendrick
the three of us. Oh man. So yeah, thank you for joining in. Our last episode, we had a good talk about the bad boys versus the going to work Pistons. And JP, one of the things we started getting into a bit was just how great Isiah was on that team, which kind of got some side conversations going. Mm-hmm. And with that, today's topic is Steph Curry versus Isiah Thomas, who is the best point guard of all time. Not player. We're not talking about this player, but specifically point guard. Who's the best point guard out of those two? Steph Curry versus Isiah Thomas. We could bring Magic into this. We could bring Gary Payton, Oscar Robertson. We're keeping it simple on this one. Steph Curry versus Isiah Thomas.
Zeke, the real Isiah Thomas, not that little dude.
That's right.
The real Isiah Thomas from Chicago. Isaiah Lord Thomas III. That's what we talking about.
The current Isiah averaged 29 points a game. What are you dissing him for?
Who does he average 29 points a game for now? His body of work is just too small. That's the only reason why
I'm not even in the conversation.
He's not even that small. He's not even that small compared to Isiah Thomas.
True. That's true.
Is 6'1".
I'm just saying his body of work is a little too small.
So with that, we're going to get into this. Fred, you're the guest. I'm going to kick it to you first. Steph versus Isiah from point guard. After that, we'll go over to JP. What do you think here?
I'm an old man, so
you are.
It's true. Yeah, I'm always gonna lean towards Zeke. He's my favorite point guard of all time. You know what I'm saying? Not saying that he was the best player of all time, but he was just my favorite. So I'm always gonna lean towards Zeke. But I was looking it up. And it's kind of a push because Zeke only played 13 years. Steph is in year 14. So this is actually a perfect time to make this comparison because the body of work is equal. So, as far as just a point guard, because Isiah only played point guard. Steph, he plays off the ball a lot. You know what I mean? He runs, comes off screens. He's a shooter. He plays off the ball a lot. So I can't necessarily call him a pure point guard. So if I have to choose who's the best point guard, then I'm gonna have to go with Zeke over Steph.
Okay, good. JP, what you think?
Big fan, don't disagree with you. In terms of point guards, Isiah is obviously one of the best to ever do it. He's one of the best leaders. He's one of the best facilitators in the game today. And I don't want to hear anybody call me a bandwagon for picking Steph over Isiah. But let me get to the point. So in terms of being a facilitator, there's more ways of being a facilitator and a playmaker than just passing the ball.
True.
And being a dribbler. Steph, and it's not like Steph can't do those things, but if Steph was in Isiah's era, he could have done what Isiah could have done on the Pistons. Maybe not as well, but he could still exceed in that role like Isiah could. But and then it gets weaves to my point of other ways of facilitating. Steph Curry on that Warriors team was the greatest offense in the history of the game. That team is built around Steph Curry, and the way he was facilitating by moving off the ball, off-ball playmaking, and you can't take that away from it in terms of being a facilitator and a playmaker. So that's my point.
That's true. That's true. I mean, it's kind of a push in some regards. I mean, Steph, you're gonna get way more scoring. Steph is at like 32 points a game over the course of his career, at just under 7 assists. Whereas for his career, Isiah Thomas was like 19-9. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was at 19-9. They both got about 2 steals a game. They both averaged just under 4 turnovers a game. So they're both incredibly efficient players. From a statistical standpoint, Steph Curry is a better player or a better point guard than Isiah Thomas is, because Isiah, for his career, he shot 29% from 3, and Steph is at 42% from 3. The problem is, or the difference comes in, where Isiah Thomas, he only shot like maybe 2 or 3 threes a game.
Right.
He only averaged 2 or 3 3-point attempts per game. So, you know, I mean, he was just, look, to me, the thing that makes Zeke that makes me lean towards Zeke over Steph is just toughness. It's just pure toughness. Isiah Thomas was a gritty dude. I mean, in one playoffs, he beat Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, and swept the Showtime Lakers, and he was the only all-star on the team.
So both Fred and JP, both of you got into a couple of the reasons why I always have a hard time with any of these comparisons, because you get into differences in eras. JP, you mentioned the fact that you said that if Steph played in the 80s, if he played in Zeke's era, he could have done some of those same things. And maybe that's true. It's a what if type of discussion. Maybe that's true. You could also argue, Fred, to your point, if Isiah played in this era, he would have been more of a three-point shooter just because he would have shot more, and maybe that percentage would have gone up.
Absolutely.
You could look at Zeke's early career before the Pistons had more of a roster around him, when he was more of a score-first point guard, and he was just a straight-up scorer. So you could make an argument, but again, that's why for me, I'm not even going to make an argument here. It's hard for me to compare the eras. But JP, let me go back to you. You had a rebuttal on that point there.
I'm not going to argue with you because you're not wrong. Isiah was the heart and soul of that back-to-back Pistons team and all throughout the 80s and 90s. And what I like about Isiah Thomas is that he's a versatile guy. If you need him to score 20, 25 points a game, Isiah could do that.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with comparing these two is that there's too many intangibles and hypotheticals that kind of make it hard to choose one guy. But
Yeah.
let me get to my point. So with Steph, he can't. And I don't want to hear pass first point guard because there are several guys who could do both things. He could pass and score. Like I said, Isiah Thomas could give you 25 a game while I start dishing out 10 assists. Magic could give you 25 a game if you need him to. Oscar Robertson, Jason Kidd, Luka Doncic, Russell Westbrook, just to name a few. All those guys are primary examples who could pass and score. Same with Steph Curry. If he was in a different offense like the Pistons, where he was in a role where he was going to be a pass first point guard, it's not like he couldn't do that. He could have exceeded in that role, but
for sure.
But because he was on a Warriors team and because of the way the NBA transitioned in terms of scoring point guards, that's why Steph over Isiah for me, because Isiah was kind of following the trend of pass first point guards with while Steph created the score first point guard. He was the guy who made the shoot. He was the guy who He was the guy who started the trend of score first point guards with the Steph Currys, the Derrick Roses, the Russell Westbrooks, the Damian Lillards, Luka Doncic.
So, okay, I said I wasn't going to give
forget about
opinions.
Steve Francis
No.
or Stephon Marbury.
I said I wasn't going to give opinions, but I got to jump in. Okay, if you want to say Steph set the trim for the three-point shooters and shooting those long threes and the volume of three-point shooting, absolutely. He set the era. He's the one that started that. But if you just say score first point guards, no, there was combo guards long before Steph. There was guards that were score first.
With guys like Jerry West and Stephon Marbury, I thought those were shooting guards, combo guards. So that's what gets me confused. So,
yeah, honestly, the whole position thing is just okay. Somebody's saying you're a point guard or whatever.
So I know we're just talking about who's the greatest point guard, but who's the better player?
Ooh, that's a whole.
Steph.
That's a whole.
Better player. That's not a difficult question to ask.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing there.
Yeah, that's definitely not difficult. Steph is definitely a better player than Isiah was. The thing is like, there you when you talk about these two players in particular, you have to consider the eras, because in the era that Zeke played in the era that Zeke played in, everybody on the floor was a two-way player. Everybody.
True.
You could not get on the court if you didn't play defense. So now you got players that are defensive specialists, right? So the reason why I would pick, like, as just a pure point guard, the reason why I would pick Isiah Thomas over Steph Curry is because, Steph Curry, like, it was a lot more physical game. And even though it was a lot more physical game back in the 80s, Steph Curry is actually bigger than Zeke is. He's about an inch taller, 5 pounds heavier than Zeke was. So he's a little bit bigger, but I still would give the nod to toughness. I mean, this dude's whole face was leaking, caught an elbow from Karl Malone. They stitched him up. He came back in the game.
Yeah. Game was different then. Like, it was
the ankle roll in the 88 finals. You know what I mean? He came back in the game and gave him 50. You know what I'm saying? And if you look at just those two injuries, Steph is done for the game. He's done for the night. Steph rolls his ankle like Zeke did in 88, he's not coming back in the game. But or if Steph catches an elbow and his face is leaking like Zeke's was, he's not coming back in the game. You see what I'm saying? So it was a different era, because those guys, they had to play through a lot of things. There was no load management. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Most dudes was trying to go for 82 games or whatever. So that's the only reason why I would take Zeke over Steph, is because I just think that he's a tougher player. But as far as like a good player, Steph Curry changed the game. Steph Curry got kids all over America taking bad shots at a high rate.
Oh,
give me 3. Yeah.
He changed the game, and that's not something I could say for Isiah Thomas. But Isiah Thomas had the best handle in the NBA history, so you know what I'm saying.
What about Allen Iverson, Kyrie Irving?
I mean, those dudes had some pretty heavy handles, but one of the things that Zeke said was that, he's from Southside Chicago. So one of the things that Zeke said was, when he was growing up, he used to be in the house dribbling the basketball in the dark. And he said that one thing that he always knew about his game was that there was no place on the floor that he couldn't get to with his dribble. Now, I'm not saying Steph can't. I'm not saying Kyrie can't. I mean, when you talk about handle, you got to talk about Jamal Crawford. You got to talk about Steph. You got to talk about Kyrie. There's a bunch of guys that can handle the ball. Iverson. There's a bunch of guys that can handle the ball. but I don't think anybody of them handled that rock like Zeke. Kept that boy low to the ground. He was, oh my goodness. He was a fun guy to watch.
Zeke has handles to this day. I saw him in the studio show last year, and he was with the suit on. He still has handles.
Right. He was a fun guy to watch. Dunked on Jordan. Yeah.
So one thing I want to bring up, and you talked about this earlier, Fred, the competition. In the 80s, coming out the East in the 80s, you going through the Bulls with Jordan, you're going through the Celtics with Larry Bird and that whole team that had the legacy. You got the Lakers coming out the West, the competition. Now, if you look at the era now, it's hard to compare eras because different types of players, different types of teams, the way that the teams are built. Because I don't want to take anything away from the Warriors because they've had some competition now, but from a toughness standpoint and from a leadership standpoint, I think that's something else that's a feather in Zeke's cap when you look at the 80s.
Right. I mean, and just like, you got to think like, what would Steph do in a situation where these guys are up into him? You know what I'm saying? Like he's in like, listen, when you talk about these two guys specifically, Steph Curry is in better shape than Isiah Thomas was. He's bigger than Isiah Thomas was. I wouldn't necessarily say he's more athletic, but the athleticism is really a push. The quickness,
that's why we're more athletic.
The quickness aspect of it, I would probably give the nod to Zeke. But that shoot, like Steph Curry, is so crafty. I mean, Steph Curry is like a combo guard. Like he's like Isiah Thomas and Rip Hamilton. Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Mixed into one because he runs off screens, and whoever draws a Steph Curry assignment, you got to get up in the morning guarding him. You know what I'm saying? You got to sit down on him when he get out the bed, or it's gonna be a long day.
Because he'll also pull up on you anywhere.
And one of the things that's underrated, see, and the more we talk about this, like I'm actually talking myself out of this Zeke thing, because one of the underrated things that doesn't, in my opinion, get talked about enough is Steph's ability to finish at the rim. Not to get to, but finish at the rim over bigger guys.
Yeah. Man is 6'2" and a week full of Giants, and he's still finishing at the rim. So could Isiah.
Absolutely.
Both of them are excellent finishers and a week full of Giants. It's amazing.
Right. Yeah, Steph is a bad boy, man.
Yeah.
Steph is a bad boy, but I mean, I just, like from a toughness standpoint.
When I was JP, when we were talking a couple of days ago in the car, we're splitting hairs here, and we're talking about a couple of the greatest point guards, a couple of the greatest players of all time. So it's a splitting hairs type of thing, but it's fun to talk about.
I think I'll just take Steph by a hair. In terms of
that's a good pick. That's a good pick, JP. I'm gonna take Zeke by a hair.
Yeah, it's close, and I'm not gonna say, it's gonna be Steph Curry without a doubt, like easily. It's because it's hard.
It is.
It's definitely hard.
It's a difficult thing. And for me, I think like I said, it comes down to moments. You know what I'm saying? It comes down to moments when these guys really have an opportunity to show you who they are, right? Mm-hmm. To really show you who they are. Like if you look at the finals in 2018 or 2019 against the Raptors, KD goes down, Clay goes down. What did Steph do that next game? He gave you 45, and you saw it from the tip off. You saw it. Steph was like a great white with blood in the water. I mean, really, like
It
was only one game, but the very second he stepped on the court, this last NBA Finals, from the opening buzzer, with the exception of game 3, Steph Curry's fingerprints were over that whole entire series. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is mine. Like, we're gonna win this. There's no way that we're gonna lose this series. You know what I mean? And you can see the same things coming from Isiah Thomas. Like I said, Karl Malone opened him up. He gets stitched up, comes back in the game, rolls his ankle, gives the Lakers 50. Isiah Thomas, I mean, you cannot deny or can't take away from the fact that Isiah Thomas beat Larry Bird, Michael Jordan in the Eastern Conference playoffs.
And I'm not.
And then swept the Showtime Lakers. Swept them with Kareem. You know what I'm saying? That's major. And he was the only all-star on the team. That's major.
And I'm not going to take away from that. That was amazing.
Yeah. Both great guys.
All right. So good conversation on this episode. I know we're getting long on our time here. So for all of y'all in the audience, definitely post in the comments and let me know what you think. Let us know what you think about Zeke versus Steph. JP, what do you think? What's our next topic going to be on our next episode? What you think?
I was going to ask you, honestly.
Well, we talked about a few different things there, 2 different points. I know one thing I want to get into is the current NBA season, because it's crazy. We're talking about Steph.
Ridiculous.
Look at the Warriors right now. Look at the Lakers. Look at the Nets. I mean,
James Wiseman got my heart hurt, man. I just expected such big things from that guy.
So we got to get into that.
James Wiseman to be playing at an MVP level. You're on the sideline for the whole season last year. You learning from the best. You watch the NBA championship, and then you come back from the first guy off the bench. You come back this season, you're the first guy off the bench, and now you're in the G League.
G League, yeah. It's not good. It's not good. So yeah, maybe we'll talk about that in the next one.
League, less than 2 years.
Yeah. Right.
That's
right. Especially when you got guys from that same class cooking, boy. There's guys from that set from James Wiseman, the same draft class cooking.
Yeah.
So
with that, we're going to leave y'all and we'll have y'all check out the next episode. Definitely, again, put your thoughts in the comments, and we'll see y'all next time.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Fred. We'll have you on again.
Yeah. All right. Fred. It was fun.
Yeah. See you guys later.
All right, take care, y'all.